Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for an update on Song of Ice and Fire, the first book, A Game of Thrones. So, as you can see, I've got a lot read, and since I last uploaded, almost done. And actually, I might go to our community pool today, and bring it with me after I eat some lunch, because I don't want to be feeling hungry to the point where I'm tempted to buy a snack. So I'm gonna try to eat lunch first before I go. And I'll be, I'll be walking to the pool, so hopefully that will be enough time to digest my food, because I know they say, you shouldn't eat right after you go swimming. I mean, right before you go swimming, so hopefully it'll be enough. But anyway, so a lot has happened, obviously, in this. And if you watch the show or even read the series previously, I'm sure you probably know what has happened, what has transpired through all of what I've read so far. But it's very interesting, because when I'm reading this, I keep thinking about how I wish things could have turned out differently for these characters. And it's like kind of sad that the choices they make lead them down the path it does. But then, of course, we wouldn't have this story if that was the case. I mean, maybe George R. R. Martin could have done something different. But then what makes this so exciting and thrilling is you don't know what's going to happen to certain characters. You don't know who will live, who will die, who's going to win the Iron Throne. No one knows until, like, the very end. Now, of course, if you've seen the show, I don't think George R. R. Martin's going to change his ending. So if you've seen the show, you know how things are going to turn out. And I know for a lot of people that was disappointing the way things turned out. But, obviously he himself thought it was the best, it was the ending that made the most sense. Sorry, I get... But, I feel so bad for Ned, because he's in a situation where, like, he can't, it's so hard for him to stay, like, he's such an honorable, moral, good person who's always doing the right thing, and has to do the right thing no matter what, even if it's at the cost of himself. And, it's just very... you almost want him to listen to the other characters, even though they're, like, very selfish, greedy people. You almost are, like, thinking, okay, if you had chosen to listen to this character, then maybe things would turn out differently for you. And it's just very frustrating, because, I think people face that dilemma constantly, where it's like, their morality and their beliefs are called into question. And of course, in a world like Westeros, sometimes, it's a very brutal world where sometimes you have to make bad choices that, compromise your morals, just so you can survive and be there, and I just, it's very frustrating. Because, of course, I know that it's not going to magically change, Whenever I reread something, when I do mostly rewatching, but now that I've gotten to the start to get the habit of rereading books, I guess I include that too, like rereading books and rewatching a show or a movie. I just keep a small part of me is thinking, what if things turn out differently? What if the characters made this choice instead? And I get frustrated. I'm yelling at the screen or yelling at the page and being like, no, you should have done this. And a small part of me fantasizes that things will go differently. And I know, of course, they won't, because the story, it's permanent. It will always go the way it does in the story. It can never be changed. And it's sad, but it makes a good story. But it's sad because, like I said, you just get so frustrated with Ned Stark. And you're like, and he was so close to getting out of this situation, and it gets taken away from him really quickly. Even though this is like, not counting the appendices where it has all the family trees and stuff, there's let's see, 674 pages. So I still got a while to go. And I really, but I think what helps it be as long as these books as long as they are is that you have multiple characters perspectives. Like you go back and like Martin goes back and forth between multiple characters, so it allows him to really expand the story, because all these, like all the Starks are separated and gone on their own different paths, and you get all these different characters' points of view on the situation. Now I'm curious. I don't remember whose perspective we get there are certain characters that I'm wondering if we got their perspective or not. I cannot remember. At least on the first 3 books. Who knows? By book 4, we might get some of those characters like Varys or Peter Baelish. I wonder if we're gonna get in the later books, like books 4 through however many books there are. I do not remember at the moment. I think like there's 7 or I don't know if we're gonna get those characters' perspective. It'll be interesting to see what they think. Like characters, especially because like characters like Varys and Peter Baelish have very interesting minds, and I'm always wonder what they're thinking. Like with the show, it allows us to kind of get a little inside peek into what they're thinking, because we get to see those characters a lot more in the show than in the book. Because, in the book, even though it's a multi-perspective story, it only goes by we only see from the perspective of which character POVs we have in the book. And I think from what I remember, can tell, like, obviously, whenever a new character's POV is added, it's because they're going to obviously play an important role. Like in book 2, we have Theon Greyjoy's point of view, and of course, whether you read the books or watched the show or both, you know that Theon Greyjoy, his importance to the story does increase, starting with book 2. And like I said, he's a character another character that I didn't like at first. I couldn't stand him, but then I kind of started to feel sorry for him. I mean, like as his story continues. Now, like I said, I'm thinking along the lines of the show, because I've never gone past book 3, but I'm pretty sure that the books are pretty, like, the show is pretty accurate, as close to the books as it can get, without basically following point by point the plot of the book. Because I know they obviously change things, like certain plot points and names of characters, and then they take out stuff that isn't, like, small moments in the book that aren't necessarily relevant. Or, like, you could put these, if there's certain dialogue exchange in those scenes, you can put them in another more important scene. Instead of wasting time in, like, moments where characters are, like, traveling or something. But still have mixed feelings about Sansa as I'm reading it, because on the one hand, like, right now in this first book, she's pretty bratty, and just, like, this whole, like, when Ned is, like, telling his daughters, I'm gonna send you away because shit has started at the fan, it's getting dangerous here, and, like, and of course, being still kids, their reasons are a little bit, selfish for wanting to stay. Like, although, at least with Arya, although to be fair, Arya at least can bring her dancing instructor with them if he wanted to go with them. So she is more prone to get what she wants, even if they have to go back to Winterfell. Well, Sansa, what she wants, she's not gonna get. Well, she's better off, in my opinion, but of course, like I said before, she's led to believe that Joffrey's her Prince Charming, and he's perfect. And she's been brainwashed to believe that he's Mr., the love of her life and all that. So she's all like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. Why? It was all Arya. She's the one who did wrong. And it's so funny. Like I said, it's still rarely funny. It's also, like, funny reading her chapters, because she's like, when her father is forced to send one of the knights or one of the guards to deal with a certain character, she's there observing everything, and even though her father does not approve of a young lady being there, and Loras Tyrell, Sir Loras Tyrell offers to do this for him, and he's like, nope, you're not ready for this situation. You're, pretty boy. And he doesn't say that, but that's what I'm thinking. He's such a pretty boy. And, so later we go to Sansa's perspective when she's talking, and she's all like mad that her father didn't let Loras take care of because he's so handsome and good looking, and he should be the one and be the hero and all that. And it's like, girl, have you forgotten what the mountain looks like? Have you not seen him? And it's like, I think because of what happens at the Hands tourney, that she has these false ideas about Loras Tyrell and that he could handle this character, and it's like, it's just like, no, honey, you're an idiot. And she and Jane Poole are talking, and she's talking, and they both have such shallow ideas about, like, oh, they should be handsome and good looking, and oh, if they're too old, why are they knights? They're not the heroes because they're too old and they're not good looking. It's just like, honey, it's like, really, you're very naive, and but it's funny, her ways of thinking, and I'm just thinking, you're gonna learn the hard way, in the worst way possible, that things are not so black and white, and characters, just because they're young and good looking, does not mean they're heroes. And of course, sleazy Lord Baelish is trying to, like, get, flirt with her or whatever. It's just so gross how he is with her, so slimy, and like, this is a young girl. In the book, she's only 11. And like on the show, she's 13. I decided to start watching it again, and from the beginning. Although I think when my friend Terry comes to visit for the summer, we're probably gonna watch the last season because she never got to watch it. So she asked if we could watch the last season while she's here, which that's the nice thing about her, about not having a convention to go to, is that we can do other stuff. We can watch movies and TV shows, and go book shopping and go to the pool. We don't have, like when she would come for the convention, we couldn't do that stuff because we only have a few days here at my house, and then we would go to the convention. So, so that'd be nice that we'll get to, watch stuff. Like, I want, watch the last season Game of Thrones, probably watch Bridgerton again. So that will be nice. But anyway, so, but yeah, I am rewatching it from the beginning. And I believe Sansa's 13 in the show. So I think Arya's probably 12 or 11, the age that Sansa was in the book, in the beginning, in the first book. But yeah, so she's still like very, like, she's still young, and it's just so gross and slimy of Lord Baelish to, like, ugh. All because she looks like her mom. But yeah, it's like, that she reminds him of her mom. It's, ugh. Yeah. Anyway, so, and then I feel like, it seems like we get more, more with Sansa than with Arya, I felt like. Because mostly Arya's stuff is, like, her, with her dancing master, and doing all those, like, really interesting things, like standing on her head, doing all these little tricks and stuff, catching cats, and all that, which is fun, that's kind of fun to, I could see where that stuff could, I could see why that stuff would work, those techniques. They're a little unconventional, but I see how they work, because, it makes her a lot faster and, like, quicker, and think beyond just her anger and stuff, like with her thinking beyond her emotions. And of course, you know, with a sword you need balance and stuff like that, which, I mean, I would love to fence and sword fight and stuff, but like fencing, but I don't know if I would be very good at it, for, you know. I wish I could take lessons though. That it would be fun. Like I said, forget dancing lessons. I want to learn how to sword fight. But more like, but anyway. So let's see. And then with John, there's not a lot to say except for we're introduced to Sam Tarly. And oh my god, I want to give Sam a hug. I feel so bad for him. And oh my god, it annoys me so much how people act like his cowardice, his being afraid all the time, constantly in fear, is like contagious or something. Like they're acting like, oh, how, you know, we shouldn't be friends with him because then they'll think we're craven. It's like, well, if they think you're a craven, then they're stupid. Okay? Because just because someone is a certain, like, actually, again, make comparison to Bridget, and sorry, I just can't help it. It kind of reminds me how people in the Ton would, you know, how like in season 2, what happens at the wedding and everything in season 2, and everyone's all like giving them the stink eye and just like, oh, I don't want to be associated with you. And there's the scene with Anthony and Kate dancing, and everyone is all like, oh, we better get off the dance floor, it's contagious. Like, that's how I feel like they're acting. It's like, that's none of your business what goes on with their family. I mean, although the queen, obviously Queen Charlotte having the wedding, so, you know, giving them the wedding, having at the palace and all that, and I guess unfortunately that made it people's business, but it shouldn't have been. Despite you have to gossip Lady Whistledown, so, you know, Penelope made it worse. But it kind of reminds me of that, where all these people are just, because Sam is scared and cowardly, as they would have put it, they're like, oh, we can't associate with them because they're contagious or something. It's really stupid. And I like how John is friends with him, makes friends with him, and is there and is, you know, and defends him. And even when Sir Alistair begrudgingly makes him, along with these other guys, part of the Night's Watch officially, he's realized, oh, my friend's gonna get bullied, and especially by Sir Alistair Thorne and everybody else, because there's gonna be new people coming in being trained, and he doesn't know what they're like. He decides to talk to the Maester, and is like, you know, and is able to convince him to consider making Sam part of the Night's Watch, but he doesn't have to be like a fighter or anything. He has other skills he's good at. And that was just, I thought that was, I always like that, how he becomes friends with Sam and kind of protects him and is there for him. And, you know, it's good because there are some people that get, when someone tries to protect them, they see it as coddling and hurt to their pride. So, like, you know, Sam is more than willing to take up any helping hand he can get from, you know, even it's from, you know, because he's a nice boy. He's not, in which he's a boy, although he's played by a grown man in the show. Again, like I said, it's still so weird when you have characters that are still children, or at least youths, like teenagers in the book, but they're played by grown-ass adults in the show. It's just so weird, like, what? But it makes sense. Like, Bran, actually, it turns out he's 10 when the show starts. Now, I don't know how old the kid that plays him was at the time, but he's supposed to be 10, when in the book he's 7. So, and they're probably thinking, we're not going to put a 7-year-old through all the stuff that the character goes through. A 7-year-old kid can't handle it. Even if he's a professional actor, he can't. We're not going to put a 7-year-old kid through this shit. So, I think, like, aging him up was probably, like, their way of being like, there's things we can't do with these kids if they're too young. And, you know, if we age up this character, we'll have to age up this one because they're older than this character, you know, so they aged up Arya and Sansa, and, you know, which to me, that's not a big deal. It's just kind of weird when I read the book and then recalling how they're a lot older, and I picture the actors when I read the book. That's why I always would love an adaptation, is because I picture who plays them in the movie or the show as the characters if I read the book. After the fact, that's who I picture playing the characters. So they look very mature, even though Rob and John are 14 in the book. They look very masculine and manly in the, when I read the book. Although since it's been so long, I can't hear their voices in my head. That's the other thing, is I'll hear the actors' voices in my head and picture them. And I can picture what they look like. I just can't hear their voices because it's been so long since I heard those voices. Which I'm remedying that right now as we speak by watching the first season. Let's see, what else can I say about the book without spoiling anything? Although at this point it probably doesn't matter because it's been around long enough and the series ended. It's been a few years since the series, so people probably have watched it. I almost feel bad for Cersei because there was a moment when Ned is talking to her because he's figured everything out, he's pieced it all together, and he's talking to Cersei, and she was hit by Robert when he lost his temper, and Ned almost feels bad for her because he's still a good guy, good enough to respect women, and even and he feels very much bad for her. And, of course, she's like, I don't want your pity. She's one of those people that's like, that she can't stand pity. And, she's become such a strong woman that it's like the last thing she wants is someone to feel sorry for her. Someone, especially like Ned Stark, to feel bad for her. And I do because, and then there is when Ned is asking her, why do you hate him so much? And she recalls their wedding night. And of course, Robert was in love with Lyanna, Ned's sister, and apparently he called her name. Which nothing is worse than I imagine nothing's worse for someone when they're having, sex with someone and then that person calls someone else's name instead of yours. That would be like such a slap in the face. Finding like there was actually on Buffy, there was an episode where, Anya and Xander are, it's when they're together, and it's the episode Superstar where Jonathan, the kid that's introduced in season 2, played by Danny Strong, he's bullied a lot throughout the first couple seasons, the second and third season, and then he makes appearances periodically, and then by season 6 he's a main villain. Although kind of pathetic villain, but definitely makes it interesting. And he did a spell in season 4, was it? Where all of a sudden he's the popular guy in the world. He's the most popular man in the world, so famous, and he does everything. He's, like I said, a superstar, almost a Gary Stu character persona. And there's the one night they're hanging out at the Bronze. I think it's the Bronze. And they're talking, Xander's kind of all mopey and stuff because basically Anya called out Jonathan's name when they were having sex. And, but that was fun. That was funny. That's such a silly, entertaining episode, I gotta say. But, so, yeah, I bring that because it's kind of like to find, and it was her wedding night. She had no choice in this marriage. She had to marry the guy because it was so they could form an alliance between the Baratheons and the Lannisters so they could, take power. And she has to put up with the fact that the king will always hold a torch for Lyanna Stark. And she probably holds, a grudge against Ned because of that as well, because it's his sister. Sometimes I feel like just like we tend to hold a grudge against people that even if they're not entirely responsible for it, they're the easier person to hold a grudge against. Like, Catelyn hating Jon Snow, even though it's not his fault he exists. It's not his fault that he's the son, or at least she believes, she's told that he's the son of Ned and some other woman. Like I said, though, R plus L equals J. And it's just easier for her to blame John, to get mad at him, be like, I hate you, I wish you weren't around. I think at some point, though, she almost starts to feel bad and regrets her decision. Regrets how she treated him. I think at some point. I want to say, but I don't know for sure. But yeah, and then of course I finally read what happens to Viserys, Dany's brother. I was anticipating that moment. I anticipated it when the show started, and I anticipated it as I'm rereading again for the third time. That moment, it's like, oh my god. And he was that character I hated, and I was glad he disappeared really quickly. But, like, the actor who plays him is really good at playing those sleazebag characters that you just hate. The only time I've seen him ever play a nice character, or a decent character, I should say, is in the 2011 adaptation of Jane Eyre, where he played the brother-in-law to Rochester, Bertha Antoinette Mason's brother. But we don't get a lot of him. We get more of him we get a little bit more of him in the book, I think. But yeah, he didn't have. Now, if I read Wide Cigars of Sea, I'm sure he plays a bigger role in that one, obviously, because that's about Antoinette and her origins and everything, and how she ended up married to Rochester. But yeah, we don't. So that was the only time he was a decent character, because the guy was. There's nothing inherently wrong. Yeah, you could, like, if you noticed, you could say, if you know the story, if you read Jane Eyre, he does kind of, like, it's a debatable, because it's like, was he really a good guy? Did he throw his sister to the wolves, so to speak? So I say decent as in, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. He just seems like someone who was trying to protect his family, and get his sister's security and stuff. I don't know. I've not read Wide Cigars of Sea, and I barely remember, so, but either way, that's the only character, because I've only seen him play one other character, and that was in the Doctor Who 2-parter episode, Children, what was it? I cannot remember. Human, I think, is the first part, and then Children of Blood or something was the second part. It's been a while. It's one of my favorite episodes, just because I love the Doctor playing a human, who's a teacher, and he has a cute little romance, although I felt so bad for Martha in that episode. Having to watch him, she's had this massive crush on the Doctor and watches him with this other human woman, and but anyway, so that's another, so that's the only other time, and he was not a great guy in that show either, in that 2-parter, and then, so the happens to him in that, he gets possessed by aliens, in that, and so in a way, he essentially dies and taken over by an alien, So I haven't seen him play anyone. Like I said, I only play a character that's potentially decent once. So I'd like to see more of him, because he's an interesting actor. But yeah, he ends up, but there's that part. He's one of the many characters that, and, but I definitely anticipated that stuff, and oh my god, some of the things that Dany has to do, it makes me cringe, like her having to eat the horse heart, just like, and then, like, the other, and then, just so she can eat the heart and not have to spit it out, like, she ends up she practically starves herself and only eats certain things just to, I think horse meat or something, or like something like jerky, horse jerky or something, just to make sure she can, like, she'll be able to keep the heart down. It's just like, ugh. And the Dothraki are badass and everything, but they have such a sexist, like, but that's no different than the rest of this world. Like, there's a lot of sexism in this world for a modern reader, but it does make it interesting. It all makes it even more triumphant with the female characters, even the ones that are evil or selfish, And it makes it all the more when these characters triumph and are able to survive in this world. And women, of course, the only thing they only had a few things and very little power, but they took advantage of and did what they could to survive. Okay, and then we have Tyrion, and for the first time he requests trial by combat, and that turns out very interesting. And we meet Bronn. I kind of like Bronn. He's fun. He's entertaining. You know, he can be kind of you can't trust him, but he's definitely entertaining. He's kind of charming in his own way. You know, he's a very selfish character, but he's kind of likable. You know, and his relationship with Tyrion is very entertaining because it's just like they know that they can't trust each other, although the Lannisters keep their word. But it's a very interesting dynamic between the two of them because they don't trust each other, but they know what they need to do to survive, and like he knows that Tyrion will keep his word and give him his money. He's definitely one of those. Bronn is definitely one of those people who's like, whoever can give me the most money, whoever can get the most out of, I'll side with them briefly. He's that kind of character. And Tyrion definitely gives him a better option. And oh my god, Lysa Arryn the woman is nuts. I can't stand her. Her relationship with her son is just so gross and disturbing, and like just, I mean, it's interesting, when you have kids playing and doing these kinds of dynamics. I guess if you're a professional, if you're a kid and you've gone to acting, you've done a couple things and you're a professional, you gotta, I guess you can prepare yourself. But there's things that she does with her son that it's like, that's very, things he has to do, the actor has to do. I wonder if the parents were comfortable or the kid was comfortable having to do the things. Although I'm sure the actors who played Lysa probably made sure that the kid was comfortable with the situation and knew what he had to do. And, and because there's something, he basically is still suckling at his mom's breast and her nipple. And he's just, and she has a very, like, overprotective relationship where the kid is definitely a mama's boy, and, he definitely has that, he's gonna, crazy kind of, there's actually two kid characters that's like, they need to be taken away from their moms as soon as possible. Even though would be heartbreaking, but their moms are bad or horrible moms and bad influences that can make the character become weak. And in this world, you can't be weak, which is really sad. And that's how it is with little Robert Arryn. He's just, his mom is making him weak and vulnerable. And then you have, with Joffrey, his mom is making him even more of a horrible human being, a brat. And unfortunately, obviously in this world, you learn that even characters like Joffrey can't survive. That, there was only so long that they'll last. They might last a good while. He might even make it to adulthood, someone like Joffrey, but eventually he's going to have enemies that will succeed in punishing him or killing him even. But like, again, when Sansa talks about Joffrey and she's like, I want to stay with him, and like she says, like I said, the scene I mentioned earlier where Ned is talking to his daughter and explaining, I'm going to send you away, she's like, but I love him and I want to have his babies. And it's like, girl, you're only 11. And it's just like, of course, I'm a modern woman reading this book, but it's just like, he would be the worst father ever. You do not want him to impregnate you. You don't want his babies to come from you. You need to find a better guy. But of course, like I said, she does not realize and is led to believe that Joffrey is a good guy and is her perfect Prince Charming. It's like, he's not. But yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna stop there. I'm on a chapter where we're Jon Snow, and it's obviously he's probably gonna find, this is probably a chapter where he finds out if what Sam's gonna, where, what Sam's gonna do, what's gonna happen to Sam and everything. Like I said, I know everything's gonna turn out alright, because of course, I'm rereading this, and I know how things work out for the characters, so, which, again, is weird. But that's all I'm gonna say with that. I haven't picked up Children of Time yet lately, so I'm so worried though with that one that I'm just not gonna, it's not gonna be for me, I keep thinking it's not gonna hit it for me and I'm gonna get bored, because but I am a little intrigued by the mystery, and I want to know the deal with the spiders, why they are so, why they've gained such intelligence. Because they're starting to get, we see each generation get smarter and smarter. And the good news is I can picture the spider. I can picture them as spiders, not as humans. And I'm curious what's going on with that one, the Dr. Kern. And if she's gonna let these people, these new group of humans, because she clearly doesn't trust them. And thinks they're working for the old, because she got betrayed by that one, the head of the department or whatever. She was betrayed, so now she thinks any human she comes across could be the enemy. I still don't know what happened to Earth, and if they explain it, it went over my head. Which, when I'm reading this, I feel like I can read it fine, but I always worry that I'm gonna, when I read it, that I'm gonna sound, and if I try to talk about it, I'm gonna sound stupid. Because, I'm not a big science fiction reader. I was never a science person. I'm more of the, the humanities and the arts and stuff. I'm not into the whole, science and math and all that stuff. That stuff goes way over my head. Especially since math is calcula. Which is basically not, I just can't comprehend it at all. You can tell me as much as you want to try to teach me, but it just won't, it won't go through. And I know everybody struggles with math, but it's just I put it this way. I took the lowest math class in college that didn't count for credits 3 times just to succeed. And the only, I took a geometry class that kept failing. It's not because I was lazy. I was definitely that crazy person that was I have to stay up late and get this stuff, because my mentality is if I don't get this done now, then it's just going to be sitting there waiting for me. So I'm the person who wants to get that done and get that out of the way and not have to worry about it later. But at the time when my parents were forced to stay up late and help me with my math homework, they would get frustrated. And, but I never could I couldn't, you can explain to me that I might get it, but then I'm going to forget it later. I'm not going to, and I tend to, have moments, I get upset and very emotional and frustrated to the point of tears when I'm working on math. I couldn't handle being on the cash register. That would freak me out and give me anxiety, and I just can't do it. Although one of the managers, was all oh, well, maybe we can talk to Tanisha, our boss, about the woman, our main person, our main manager, about, oh, maybe we can have a register where it's card only. And, it's still, though, when I thought, I was no, I'm no, I don't, even if it is only card, I still don't want to do it. I still do not want to do that, that kind of thing. It still makes me, panic. Even if, because, I don't know, I keep thinking, these sinners, and what if there has to, I don't know, I still freak out at the idea, even if they say card only. I don't, want that kind of pressure, that kind of responsibility. But anyway, So yeah, so when it comes to science fiction, I'm nervous that I will look stupid, and like, already we live in a world where people think that women can't be like, where women can't be scientists or can't be mathematicians. We still kind of live in that world where it's still that mentality, where we still have that mentality. So it's like, we're not taken seriously. And I'm someone, like I said, I'm someone who's not a math or science person. And it's not because I'm a woman, I'm not as smart as a man. It's because it doesn't click. It's not because I'm a woman that I don't understand it. It's just because I don't understand it. As just in general. So I'm always worried about that kind of, that people would have that mentality if I try to talk about a sci-fi book. If I try to and I end up sounding stupid because it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about or that I don't understand it. Because I'm not stupid, I'm just, science, math were not my thing. I just can't, and it has nothing to do with being a woman. Just because I don't understand that stuff. But, so yeah, I gotta admit that does concern me a little bit when I try science fiction. What was nice about The Expanse is that, the plot, because it was kind of, more adventure and like a detective story, it was a little easier to understand than, this kind of, something like this. So, but I'm gonna continue to read it, and see where I go with it. Hopefully I'll continue with it, and hopefully I didn't waste my money, because this was a book I bought at Books A Million. I didn't buy it used, so it was a little bit more expensive. But anyway, so so it's like, I don't know where I'm gonna, I feel like after this I should pick up Clash of Kings right away, but then I also have to, Dragon Reborn to read by Robert Jordan, and then there's, there's this one. I want to pick up this one and then get to book 4 as soon as I'm done with this one and actually finish it. And then I still have to finish, and then there's Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. I want to get to that because I don't want to make the same mistakes I've had in the past where like a series or a trilogy sits on my shelf and I never finish. I take forever before I actually finish it. The good news is it's just a trilogy, it's like right there. I cannot remember what that series is called at the moment. And then there's a lot of other books I need to consider reading and getting back to, because they're books that I've started, but then I don't come back to it for a while. And also, I'm trying to focus only on this book, even if this is the only other book I read, because obviously I read Bridge of Clay. Like, even if this is the only book I read in the month other than Bridge of Clay, I want to try to stick to that and not be like, and not be thinking, I gotta read a bunch of other books so I can have a lot of books read in the month. Like, I'm trying not to be that person, because, I always feel like I have to be like, you guys, I've said it, vocalized it in these videos where I'm like, I know, even though no one has ever said anything, I just worry that someone would say something to me one day, and, where, well, it's not about quantity, it's about quality, and, I keep feeling defensive, even though people haven't said it to me, feeling like, remind people that I know it's about quality of a book, and not about quantity. And the other problem is when I read, that's, if I don't focus on these longer books, that's how they end up sitting there for years, not getting finished, because of that mentality of trying to read other books, as like getting other books in the month. Because I know that these books this size and longer will take a big commitment, will take my time, and I won't get any of my other books read. And it's not just about me trying to, like, get a bunch of books read in the month, but also trying to be like, assure my mom that I am reading the books I buy, and that, you know, knocking them, getting them read, so that I can feel justified in constantly buying multiple books in order, you know, whether I buy them online or in the store. So yeah, so I'm trying to focus on this one only this month. And the good news, you know, I'm so familiar with the plot that it's like I keep wanting to read more, you know, and it's a good, you know, and the good news is, even though I'm still very Bridgerton obsessed, it's the point where I don't mind I'm still eager to pick this up, even if it's not anything like Bridgerton. And also, you know, I don't read books like Bridgerton anyway. It's not my thing, you know. I mean, like, unless it's, you know, ones that are labeled classics, like, I'm not gonna read the modern romances of today that are written today. Like, I'm not gonna read the Bridgerton novels. And like I said, there's things I've heard about the novels where I like characterizations that I don't like, that I prefer what they give me on the show. Which, by the way, got some confirmation for the show, little spoilers of what they're gonna do with season 3. And it was one of these things where I kind of saw it coming. You know, I'm a little disappointed, but at the same time, it's like I still kind of wanted to see this arc, but I was hoping they would wait to do this arc, and give it another season. And both my sister, you know, and like talking to my sister, I know she's excited about a certain character storyline that's not the couple that they're doing this, and they would have been the next couple going by the book. The book series, but the writers that kept, like Shonda Rhimes and them, kept hinting that they wouldn't be, you know, they were not going in book order. So I had a feeling that they were going to do a certain couple before another couple, which I'm okay with. You know, and I'm also okay with a certain actor I'm disappointed that there's a certain actor that's definitely not coming back for season 3, you know, and I don't think it makes sense. But I'm not going to be, you know, I don't want to be that person who says, oh, I'm not going to watch it anymore, because I like other characters on that show anyway. This character, you know, I can live with the fact that this character's not going to be on there. But I know there are other people that have seen comments on YouTube where they're like, well, I'm not going to watch the show anymore because this person's not on there. But I think the show is great so far. Now, I don't have any biases towards the books because, like I said, I haven't read them. So I don't have any attachment to what happens in the book. And I still think the show is great, even if certain characters are not on there. And like I said, I'm nervous about season 3. Like I said, with who's going to take center stage in season 3, but I'm going to choose to reserve judgment and wait until it happens. And I know they're going to start filming this summer, which I was just thinking, because I think their summers are the same time as ours here in the U.S., or at least this part of the U.S., and like the northern hemisphere. And I'm just, I guess all the U.S. is, and it's like, oh, it's going to be so uncomfortable for them to film. I mean, I don't know how they did it, how they filmed with the costumes they have to wear, because I'm sure the costumes are very warm. I mean, the guys have to wear coat and tails and top hats, and the women have to wear corsets and these long dresses, and sometimes, you know, they have a lot of layers, and it's like, how do you do that? I mean, how are they gonna, and then some of them have to wear wigs, and it's like, how do they, I feel so bad, I don't know how they're gonna do it, but I mean, obviously they do it, but it's just, oh my god, although there's some scenes, obviously, that are set indoors, so that probably helps, but like the outdoor stuff, I don't know. I'm just curious how they do it. They must have like fans and stuff that they hide and that they're able to hide. I don't know, but anyway. So that is my update of Game of Thrones, and then like I said, there's my thoughts on, like I said, how things are going with this one, with the Children of Time. Like I said, I don't want to sound dumb when I'm talking about this book, but again, science is just not my thing, you know, and it's not like it's not entirely super confusing, but there are some aspects that I'm worried that I would sound like idiotic, and I don't want to give that impression. I mean, like I said, people already you know, there's already this assumption that women can't, you know. But anyway, so that's what's going on. Like I said, I'm looking forward to getting to the end of this, and like I said, I feel like I need to jump into book 2 right away. So, and then I need to, and there's all these other books I need to get to right away too, so it's gonna be, so I'll decide and see where I go from here. So, I hope you guys like this video. If you did, please give a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below to see when I post new videos. I hope you are having a great May, and I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys later. All right, bye.